Hey, real quick, let me tell you what happened the first night I brought the Polk Signature Elite ES12 into my setup. I didn't crank the volume. I didn't tweak settings for an hour. I just pressed play. And felt the room finally lock in. That was the moment I realized my system had been missing its foundation all along. This is for the kind of person who can tell when bass is just noise instead of structure. You notice when explosions don't carry weight, when music lacks body, when sound feels tall but not grounded. You're past the phase of tolerating weak low end. You want bass that feels deliberate, controlled, and confident. Before anything else, check the current price and stock. Subs like this don't sit quietly once people understand what they actually deliver. You knew it was time to upgrade when big scenes felt thin, when bass lines hinted instead of arrived, when your speakers sounded good but never quite complete. I remember thinking my setup was pretty solid, until I heard what happens when the low end finally shows up with authority. That's the moment you outgrow compromise. The first real session with this sub changed everything. That 12-inch driver didn't boom, it pressed. Bass felt tight, fast, and physical. Impact landed exactly when it should, then disappeared instead of lingering. Music gained depth without getting thick. Movies gained scale without drowning dialogue. Once you experience bass that behaves this cleanly, anything weaker feels like filler. I lived with it daily. Movie nights where every rumble felt intentional, gaming sessions where explosions and footsteps had weight, music listening where kick drums finally had presence, and even everyday TV that suddenly sounded fuller without being loud. It's not about raw power, it's about control. This isn't the kind of bass you notice for being loud. It's the kind you notice when it's gone. Once it's there, the entire system sounds more confident, more balanced, more grown up. So don't wait around hoping prices drift or stock sticks. The regret with bass always comes later, right when you hear someone else's setup do what yours can't. You might think a single sub won't transform everything. That doubt disappears the moment the room feels anchored instead of hollow. This doesn't just add low end, it completes the soundstage. Here's the surprise benefit: clarity. When bass is clean and controlled, mids open up, dialogue sharpens, and the whole system breathes better. Owning this feels like finishing the build. Bass feels deep, not boomy. Impact feels tight, not sloppy. Music feels full, not bloated. Movies feel grounded, not thin. If I'm honest, proper placement matters. And real bass always asks for real space. But at some point, you stop comparing specs and admit the truth: you already know what kind of low end you want. Don't let this be the upgrade you delay and think about every time a scene falls flat. If you're ready for bass that finally belongs in your system instead of fighting it, check the Polk Signature Elite ES12 now and give your setup the foundation it's been missing.